Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about Season 1, Episode 2 of It. Welcome to Derry. The episode was called The Thing in the Dark. As the episode starts, Lily wakes up in bed after a nightmare about what happened at the movie theater. Meanwhile, two Derry cops sit outside theater employee Hank Grogan's apartment, suspicious that he's behind the kids' disappearances. As in, no bodies were found, just a ton of blood. Hank's mother rants about how Ronnie needs to go back to school, but how her dad wants to keep her close. Meanwhile, Leroy Hamlin is sitting on his porch when a car pulls up with his wife Charlotte and his son Will inside. The boy's excited to see his new room, so he runs inside and finds a telescope there that's being given to him as a present. At school, Marge wants to be part of the popular crowd so badly that she makes fun of a boy that one of them has a crush on. Ronnie shows up and everyone eyes her with suspicion, but Lily approaches her without a second thought. In class, Marge asks Lily if she's okay after what happened at the theater. She's also concerned about her friend's reputation and wants her to eat with the popular kids, but with the other kids presumably dead, Lily doesn't care about her stupid group. After class starts, in walks Will, who is reprimanded for being late. He goes to sit in a chair only for a boy to pull it out and cause him to fall, prompting others to laugh at him when this occurs. One boy in particular, however, compliments his pencil instead of mocking him. At the military base, Shaw tells Hanlon that Masters was one of his attackers. He says he's not a Soviet spy, just a racist asshole who wanted to scare Hanlon. At the same time, Charlotte goes to the local meat market, but finds herself distracted by a group of boys beating up another boy outside. And when no one helps, she intervenes, leading to one bully getting in her face. It seems that they are not afraid of her, and everyone else just stares. At home, Charlotte tells Leroy about her disappointment with the whole situation, but he tells her not to get involved. With Will asking to be excused and Leroy unable to talk about his secret job, the conversation quickly falls apart. Elsewhere, while in her bed, Ronnie listens to her dad and grandmother arguing. She covers her head with the blanket only for the mattress to start beating like a heart. She suddenly can't find her way out of the blanket as it turns red like skin and fills up with water. She struggles, finally bursting through and onto the floor, but something else is in the bed. It's her dead mother wearing her wedding dress and saying that Ronnie ripped her right open and killed her when she was being born, just like she killed those kids at the theater and will kill her father. Her facial features then decay as an umbilical cord shoots out of her and wraps around Ronnie's neck, pulling her towards her stomach, which is filled with teeth. Inside of there, staring back, are glowing yellow eyes. Ronnie gets away, but her mother then stands up and menacingly shuffles towards her. And it's only when Ronnie screams, which brings her father to the room, that this terrible vision ends. At a bar, three black military officers are discussing their experiences being questioned by the police. One of them is none other than the psychic character from The Shining, Dick Halloran. Turns out that he wasn't questioned, but he can't talk about what he was doing either because it's super secret. The white police chief then comes in and sits at the bar. Two patrons approach him and want to know if Hank was arrested yet, because they just know he did it, even if there's no evidence, and he has an alibi. And they don't only want to know whether Hank's been arrested or not, they make it pretty clear that he needs to be, or come the next election, he's going to find himself out of a job. And it turns out that these two guys are not just townsfolk, they happen to be folks in positions of power in Derry. After they leave, the police chief indicates to the bartender that the black guys in the bar have to go. And when the bartender gives them a long look, the black officers leave and head back to base. Once there, they're given grief by the guard since they weren't supposed to be off base to begin with. But when he calls and reveals to whoever's on the other end that one of the airmen there is Halloran, they're cleared and sent through, apparently because Halloran has special privileges. The next day, three native teenagers watch as the military digs up their land. Halloran is among them, looking sick. This is the fourth dig site in as many months that the military has been working on, and his commander is not impressed with the results so far, though Halloran says he's getting close, meaning his psychic abilities are close to pinpointing whatever it is that the military is looking for. In the school cafeteria, Ronnie tells Lily she's scared that her dad will be taken away and killed. Lily at first said she'd seen a monster at the theater, but now she's not sure, she says. even though she knows Hank wasn't there. Still, she can't tell the truth because she'll be taken away in a white coat. In a nearby hallway, Will is eating his lunch alone, where Rich, the nice kid in class, is doing the same. He asks about the book that Will's reading before swooning over the popular girls as they walk by, especially Marge. When another kid throws a smoke bomb, Will runs right into a teacher while trying to get away from it, and of course, she's not happy to have been knocked over, so he ends up in detention with Ronnie, who is shocked to see him reading for fun. And it turns out that Ronnie's there because she yelled at Lily, who is reluctant to tell the cops what she actually saw so that her father can be taken off the list of suspects. She's not happy that Lily simply said he wasn't there. And she doesn't think it's enough to keep her dad out of trouble. So she swore, and the teacher heard it, and so she's in detention. Anyway, outside, Lily, who probably wishes she only got detention, is being taken away by the police chief. At the station, Chief Bowers talks to Lily, and she tells him again that she didn't see Hank, but the chief manipulates her. He knows that because of what she went through with her dad and her previous time in a psychiatric hospital, it would make her look like a suspect if she can't paint a better picture of what actually happened at the theater. He talks about sending her back to Juniper Hill for a couple of days for an evaluation, which of course terrifies her. And then he asks her if she's absolutely, positively certain that Hank wasn't there. Next, we see Hank being arrested and dragged away, meaning that Lily apparently said no, she couldn't be 100% sure. And Ronnie then shows up at Lily's house in the middle of the night, demanding to know what she said. Back at the base, Hanlon visits his attacker in his cell. He pulls out a gun and lays a magazine by it, demanding to know how his attacker got a rare gun just like it, and was able to use it so well given that it's a Russian gun and notoriously difficult to use. Masters, who gets upset with Hanlon in short order, tries to load the gun but can't, and so Hanlon knows that he wasn't his attacker because his attacker, whoever the masked person was able to handle the gun easily. So Hanlon visits General Shaw and tells him that he knows Masters is innocent, but it turns out that Shaw already knows that because he was the one who planned the attack. He did it to test Hanlon to see exactly how brave and fearless he was because he was looking for a man just like him. And Hanlon passed the test. Oh, good news. Hanlon, of course, is angry, even though Shaw says that it wasn't supposed to go as far as it did. So the general asks for 10 minutes of Hanlon's time for him to hear the general out. Next, Lily goes to the grocery store alone, and down one aisle, she hears a voice behind her for a second saying, "You should be locked up." Then the voice on the supermarket speaker calls her out, and everyone is watching her. And they're not just watching her casually, they're watching her in a very creepy way. So Lily moves faster in a panic as the aisles become impossible dead-end maze walls, basically, where she ends up seeing the faces of her now missing friends on cereal boxes. And their faces are all like decayed, like corpses, except for Phil's. Inside a jar of pickles, she sees the rotting face of her father watching her. After she smashes it, his various pieces, parts, and appendages, which apparently were in all different jars that have now all broken, pull themselves together somehow into a sick, messy, gross mass. He creepily approaches her asking for a kiss from his daughter, and it's just very, very gross. So Lily closes her eyes and screams until other folks in the store call her name to sort of snap her out of it, and when she opens her eyes again, everything's normal, and the grocer is standing over her. Of course, this outburst results in her being seen as off her rocker, and she's sent back to Juniper Hill anyway. Meanwhile, Shaw and Hanlon go to the secret part of the base where the general talks about the Soviets and the Cubans working together on a missile. He says that his mission is to win the Cold War, but not so much by building a weapon, as opposed to looking for one that's buried in Derry and has been buried for a long time. He tells Hanlon that they don't know what it is, but that it emits fear, and if they can find it, they can harness it and turn it into a weapon, but they need Hanlon to help secure it because he seems to have no fear. In fact, the general calls him a man with no fear. Another officer walks in with Dick Halloran to say that they've found something. It's now night and raining at the dig site, and an old car from the 1930s has been dug up. And as this is happening, as it's being lifted out of the dirt, out of it tumble several human skeletons, those of the Bradley gang, apparently, who in life were involved in an event in Derry that took place a long time ago and which was known as the Bradley Gang Massacre, which of course was caused by it. And this discovery signifies that the military is getting closer to finding what they're looking for. which of course is also it. And that's where the episode ended. So I'm continuing to like this show. This episode was very intense. I thought that it might have been a little too heavy-handed on the racism angle. It spent a very long time covering nothing but different racist issues that exist in the town between the different characters that are black. And I thought it was a little bit much all in one episode. It was like, okay, can we get to the creepy stuff? Can we get to the it stuff? And so I didn't love that. But the rest of the episode is just so good. The acting is so good that it really still turned out to be a great episode. Two super creepy, scary, masterfully done scenes with Ronnie's mother. That whole scene was insane and super scary and absolutely over the top, which was fantastic. And of course, the scene with Lily and her dead dad coming together out of the pickle jars. It was so gross and so just creepy and scary and terrifying that it was awesome. I totally loved it. So all that stuff's great. I'll say again that these kids are doing a really good job with the acting. So it was just incredible. And, add to that the 60s aesthetic, which is absolutely on point. It just is fantastic. And, there's a lot going on in the subtext with Easter eggs and sort of things that they show but don't comment on that you can kind of pick up on anyway. First of all, there are constant references to other events from Derry's past and from other King works throughout the story. In fact, the opening sequence that they debuted with this episode after the cold open is full of them. And so the world building is just crazy. I've said before, or last week I should say, that I'm not a big reader, so I don't know these things because I'm a huge reader of King's books. I know these things because my wife is, and she watches it with me. And so she picks up on all this stuff, and so I sort of pick it up by osmosis that way, or secondhand, I should say. But they're doing a great job with all that stuff. And, there's just other subtle stuff going on, like the scene where Charlotte tries to rescue that boy from being bullied and recognizes that the townsfolk aren't doing anything and that they all seem sort of numb to it. And that would seem to be an effect brought on by its malevolence. And I mentioned that last week, that like even during the period of time where he's not actively terrifying people, I say it isn't actively terrifying people, the sort of rot that's taken hold in Derry is ever present. And the residents there have just become desensitized to like bad doings or evil doings in the town because it's just sort of ever present and it's just normal to them. So they don't react to it. Whereas Charlotte is new to the town and she's seeing it all and she's like horrified. So it's just another sort of layer of story, that presents. And I think it's just really cool and just adds to the creepiness and the sense of unease that you feel watching it, which just makes the whole thing a really great experience. At least once in the episode, we get to see its yellow eyes, and that's something called the deadlights, which is its true form. Again, I know this because my wife reads King and stuff. And so they're even, like doing that. Like I said last week, we didn't get to see Pennywise. We're getting to see its other forms, but that's its true form. So they even brought that into this episode. So, that's really cool. They're starting to bring in the Native American characters, and that's important because of something called the ritual of Chud, which is a Native American ritual that was used at one point in time to contain it for like 4 cycles. So about 100 years. Again, I know this because my wife. Anyway, so they're even sort of foreshadowing that. Is that going to play a role in how it is made to go dormant by the end of the season or the end of the series? We'll have to see, but that's being referenced as well. A question I have related to that, something that can control it, is how does the military expect to harness it? I don't know that they know about this ritual of Chud, or if they plan on bringing in Native Americans to try to help control it. But they know that it, emits great fear and that it's powerful and that they want to harness it. How in the hell are they going to do that? They've not mentioned this, so I'm afraid that this plan is doomed unless it's going to be doomed either way probably, but do they even have a plan? We're going to have to see, I guess. It's kind of sad that Lily ended up in Juniper Heights anyway. She kind of bagged Ronnie's dad to avoid going to Juniper Heights, but she ended up getting sent there anyway because she had a freak out, and that's super sad. on two fronts. One, she's in there, and two, bagging her friend's dad didn't help her, and that's kind of awful, actually. So there's that. The only other question I have alludes back to something I pointed out earlier, which is that when Lily sees the cereal boxes in the grocery store with the faces of her missing and presumed dead friends on them, all of their faces are rotting, are composed of rotting flesh, as in, a corpse. But Phil's is not. Phil's face is normal. So the question is Phil dead? Or has he just been absconded with by it and is being held and just used for whatever it uses the kids for, making them float or whatever it is? So that's an interesting question. And I'm wondering how long it's going to be before it's answered. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I mean, just a really good show so far. I think the performances are great. I think the sense of unease that they're building, the sense of tension, the sense of dread that they're building with all the various story elements, not the least of which are the crazy over-the-top attack scenes where it just attacks people and pulls off these gross, horrific, torturous visions. It's just amazing. And I'm loving the aesthetic. It's just a really good show. I'm really getting a lot out of it. Even though, like I say, I don't read the books. Fortunately, I have my wife, and she points out some of these things to me that she knows. And so it's just a pleasure to watch this show and to watch them crafting this whole sort of experience of this scary, creepy show. So I'm really enjoying it. But I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.